Hey guys, we are still looking at sections 1.5. If you want to pause the video and go to your textbook and find the do the math, we're going to do this together. Alright, once you get to the activity, I would like for you to try to do this on your own as much as possible. So if you want to pause the video and try to answer these questions, then you can look at what I have entered for them after you have a chance to look at them. Alright, so identify and compare the maximums of the function. The graph of f of x is shown. So here's f of x, and g of x gives us an equation. So we have f of x and g of x. So remember, this section 1.5 is about comparing functions across different representations. So we've got a graph and an equation. Alright, it says the maximum value of f of x is, so we can evaluate this by looking at the maximum value here. The maximum comes from your y-axis. Okay, the y-axis, you can see that the highest point on this function is -3. And that occurs at what x value? So your maximum occurs at x equals 1. And the maximum of g of x is, alright, so this is an equation. So you can either graph it and look at it, or you can remember that this is in Vertex form. So you remember you've got g of x equals a times x minus h plus k, and h and k are your vertex. Alright, so if you remember that, then you can find the vertex from the equation. Alright, so your vertex would be it's going to come from your h and k. And if you remember, this is negative h. So how do I get negative here? So this would be -4. That is a 4. Sorry for my poor writing on the computer. Alright, so let's go back to the question. It says the maximum value of g of x, okay, and it's a maximum because this is negative. So that means we know it's upside down. Alright, so the maximum of g of x is at 5. Because this is your x and this is your y value. And remember, the maximum comes from your y. So 5 would go here. And that occurs at -4. Alright, on the next part it says compare the minimum or maximum of each function as represented in the table and graph. Alright, so again, they give us f of x. This is a graph of f of x. And they give you a table of g of x. Alright, it says identify the maximum or minimum for f of x. So f of x, again, is the graph. You can look up here and see that the highest point is 10. So we've got a maximum value of f of x is at 10. And that occurs at what x? So the maximum, if you come straight down, that occurs at 3. Alright, then it says identify the maximum or minimum of g of x. So if you come up here and look, it gives you a table of values. So if you look, you can see that these go up and then they come back down. Alright, you can also graph the points in your table as well. So I've already graphed these just to save a little bit of time, but if you go to Stat and you hit Edit, you can put the points. You can see 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the same as my x's here. And then my g of x, I'll put 3, 11, 12, 11, 8 here. And then I graphed it, and I went ahead and made this curve so that you can see what that looks like. Alright. So we can use the graph to figure out what these are. And these are g of x. So it says the maximum value of g of x. And then the next two if we go to zoom or trace, we can see that the maximum is 3 and 12. So g of x, that's our y value, so this would be 12, and this would be 3. And I'm not going to click on these because these are actually wrong in the online textbook. I have messaged them and let them know. But anyways, if you use the table of values above, we would have a maximum value of g of x is 12, and it occurs when x is 3. So you can come over to 3 and go up and see that cursor is blinking right there, and it tells you that is the highest point. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.